Hello, my friends. This is Cara-Renee with B.Reborn Art and Healing, coming to you with my Sunday's Art of Truth for September the 11th, I believe. And today we're going to be making a mixed media project using a 10 by 10 MDF board that's down here underneath my other supplies. These are all of the supplies that I'll be using. I am going to just introduce you with what we're using, and then I'm going to switch over to the voiceover. Again, that's just the best mechanism for me to create mixed media. So I've got my glazing liquid from Golden. I'll be using that. I've got my raw umber fluid acrylic, one of my favorites. I've got cobalt turquoise in golden acrylic as well, excuse me. And I've got this gold texture paste, which you will not have seen the video yet, but I did do my first Mixed Media 101 that will be coming out on the channel next week, I think. I'm not sure. Watch for it though. It's the first episode of Mixed Media 101. I pulled out this quinacridone Nicolazo Gold just because it adds a really golden, beautiful, light touch to a project. So I really enjoy using that. I've got my Liquitex matte medium. I actually did pour some golden fluid matte medium in here because I ran out of the Liquitex, but it's all the same. It does the same job. And then this is transparent iron oxide, which is a transparent high flow acrylic, which works really good for the technique that I'm going to try, or that I'm going to do. I tend to go really dark with my mixed media pieces, and today I'm not going to do that. It's going to be pretty, it's going to have some visual interest and some visual texture, but it's not going to have actual texture other than the angel wings. So we'll get to that here in a moment. I've got my archival ink in Vintage Photo, and just in case I want to introduce some green into the background, I've got the Fern Green archival ink. This is my sponge dedicated to a certain technique that I'm going to be doing. Couple of brushes, pretty elementary stuff here. I've got my tear ruler to go ahead and tear up my papers, because what we're going to do, stencils that I may or may not be using. These ones are iffy, I'm not sure. And I've got a file folder, which I'll explain to you here now. So what we're going to do, I used to do this technique when I was on Sean Petit's creative team. She's a mixed media artist. And what I started doing was experimenting with doing a stencil design on paper and then cutting that out so that I get more of a separate piece from the base of the project. So I'm going to show you how I do that today. Debating on which wings. I'm probably going to do these wings on this side, and so that's what the file folder is for. That's going to be our first step. This is my 10 by 10 MDF board. I believe it's 10 by 10. This is not big enough to tell, but yeah, that's 10 by 10. So we're going to be doing that, and then again, these stencils I may or may not use. So I'm going to go ahead and switch the voice over, but it's going to start with me tearing the paper. So I'm just going to set that to music to start off with, and then we will get going on the next step. Okay, we're going to start adhering these papers. Because basically I'm wanting a really kind of vintage background here, and I'm going to be overlapping these pages because I want different things to peek through. So that's kind of my thinking there. Take a quick drink of my coffee. It's early in the morning. Here we go. Strong coffee this morning. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a bunch of matte medium on here. Now, if just as a tip for mixed media techniques, if I was going to put paint directly on here and not paper, I would want to probably gesso this surface. But because this is going to be completely covered with paper, that is going to have a matte medium on the top. It doesn't need to be sealed because this is going to act as the seal. So. You know what? I think I'm going to go around the edges. I haven't done that forever and a day. So I'm going to collage around the edges of this canvas, or it's not a canvas, it's an MDF board. And let's do that a little bit differently. Yeah, it's fun to do stuff that's different. Creates really interesting edges too when you do that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn the music on, guys. Okay, so I forgot to mention what I'm writing about this for this Sunday's Art of Truth. I actually was inspired by something I saw on Facebook, which have followed this concept. I love this concept for a really long time, and it's this truth, this idea, this thing that I believe that angels attend to us, that there are angels all around us, that they watch over us, they watch over our loved ones. And so I was working with and I was also working with that that wing stencil, like as I mentioned before, on my Mixed Media 101, and I just loved this idea of creating a piece that was just these angel wings, because again, they're quite meaningful to me, and so I wanted to do a piece with them. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're creating around. So if you want to kind of read the story, the inspiration, you can head over to the blog, and the link to the blog will be in the description box, along with the supply list and all of the close-up photos. And all the papers that I'm using today are from Ruby and Pearl. They're her various French ephemera kits. And so just to talk about collage a minute, it is really pleasing to the eye to have 3 of everything. So that's why I'm kind of moving around the surface and placing bits of each color in those spots. So because it's just very, 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 very pleasing. So I don't know if you can tell that just by looking at it, but we've got 1, 2, 3 of the roses. We've got 1, 2, 3 of that. That's just one because it's just one big piece and various. But basically the idea is you're also kind of moving around the tones of the paper colors. So So I think we're good here. I think I want one more dark piece though, because this is pretty. So I think we'll go up there with that. And then I will again turn the music on and finish up all the edges, because that is a little bit time consuming. So I don't want to bore you with that. If that doesn't bore you, you can give me feedback, and I would definitely leave that in if that's something that you guys are interested in. But it can be kind of a redundant process, and I don't want to bore anybody. So I will be back with you in a moment. Okay, we just need one more little piece in this corner here. Just a tiny one. It's kind of fiddly. Just trying to get everything covered. I don't cover every little edge, like this one still has some brown showing, but I'm going to show you what I'm going to do that's going to make that edge look just amazing. So just getting that last piece on there. I'm going to kind of go low because I can always cut it off. Goodness gracious. Just basically, it creates a lot of visual interest, kind of like this collage. I guess I'll just fold that over. Sorry, that's off camera, guys. So there we go. So, and I don't mind, you probably are noticing that we've got some wrinkles and things, especially in some of the paper more than others. I'm not sure why that is, but this one has a lot of wrinkles, but it looks really amazing, and it actually really adds to the project because it makes it look really old, which is what we're going for here. So we're going to go ahead and let this dry, and I will be back with you in a little bit to go on to the next step. Okay, so let me just hold this up so you guys can see. This is what it looks like. So it is pretty much dry, at least it's dry enough for the next step. So I'm just going to get my brush in my water here, and I'm going to get that matte medium out of my way. Take another sip of coffee. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over this whole thing with my makeup brush here and some Vintage Photo Archival ink, because what this is going to do is it's going to cause this ink to catch on all of those edges and really make them stand out and just really give this. We might not even use the Vintage Photo, not Vintage Photo, excuse me, the glaze that we would often do. So I missed a piece here. I think it's going to be okay though. We'll just make sure that we get a little bit of texture on that, or some stenciling. So I'll show you what this looks like when I'm done, because it really is beautiful, and that you can really kind of distress all of these edges too. The edges are not completely dry on the sides, but I'm not worried about that because we're not gonna do anything that's gonna really affect that. So a little bit more on that rose. So I want to show you what this looks like and how much it makes this vintage. Look at that. So amazing. And so, you know, we set these wings aside. I am debating on whether or not I'm going to use them, because I realized as I was fussing with this that normally when I do that, I put it on a little bit of a heavier, like a chipboard or something, because then it actually raises it up. I put it on a file folder. It's not going to raise it up at all. So I'll show you what that looks like when it's done, just so you can see the technique fully done. But I think I'm going to go ahead and do it right on my surface when I get to that point. So sorry for the change in plan there, but it happens. So let's get our stencils out and see what we want to use. So I do want to introduce some of this design, not a lot, just here and there. And I am just going to be using my vintage photo here. And I will use my I will use the sponge I just had. And so I'm not going to overdo this. I want it to be really subtle and not too terribly overwhelming, you know what I mean? So I'm just going to selectively pick some spots to create a little bit more interest in the background, especially over those that book page will be really pretty. This is a little tacky, so my finger just stuck to that, and that's why we've got a little piece of paper showing, but that's okay. It's mixed media. That's the name of the game. Messiness. There we go. So I'll hold that up for you in just a second. Let you see what that looks like close up. So let's just turn this over and go over here. I also like to do this in threes as well. So I will apply a texture, oh goodness, stenciling or other elements in threes. So that's what I'm doing here. It's just really pretty. I don't know what the science is behind that, but all the artists say it, and I find that that's true. Like, it doesn't confuse my mind. If somebody's using, you know, the rule of, you know, threes, it's just really, like, you look at it and it's just very settling. It's just kind of strange. So down here, I think I'm just going to do a little bit of these little shapes. Just a little bit, though. I don't want to overdo it. There we go. There we go. So let me hold this up for you. Easy peasy. So you see how it's just adding this layer. It's not adding a bunch of bulk. It's just adding a layer of color and that vintage look as well, which I think is really, really beautiful. I do love to use my numbers though too, but I think I'm going to use a little bit of black for that, which I know might be a little scary to think about, but I'm going to grab my other sponge here if I can find it. Oh goodness gracious, Cara-Renee. There it is. I'm going to show you a technique, because when you use archival ink, it's permanent, but I'm going to show you how you can lighten it here in a second if this gets too bold. So I'm just going to kind of go just here and there and just put a couple of numbers on here. This might be okay because my black ink is not very, my ink pad is not very juicy. So that's fine. It's not too bold. And I'm going to go up here in this corner. And again, thinking about the rule of threes. And just getting a little bit. I love numbers because they represent time, and time is everything, right? Our entire world is all about time, and so I think it's just really, it just really speaks to me, I guess, what I'm trying to get at. Sometimes I get at it a little bit in a crazy way, but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and grab this 8 down here, right in the middle of those roses. Oh, I love it. So I'm gonna show you a close up of this as well, and. Whoops, oh man, that was wet. That's okay. Oh man, that just ripped off. Oh goodness. I'm not a very patient mixed media artist, which is really unfortunate because it does require patience, but I'm on a little bit of a timeline here. So I'm trying to get this mostly done before I have to move on to another priority. So I pulled out all of this other stuff. So I pulled out all these inks and stuff. I think I'm going to use a little bit of this transparent brown oxide, but I think that's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to even use these other paints because I don't think it needs it. But I am going to do this because I love the effect of having it kind of, whoops, drip down the page. I'm just reaching for my water here. And have it kind of drip down the page, I think is really pretty. And this is a really bright, not bright, it warms up the piece, which goes with our kind of our design that we're going for here. Is just this really vintage look. So I'm just gonna put a bead of it up at the top, and then I'm gonna go down. I'm just gonna go down. Come on, we need some runs here. There we go. Oh, I love that. We're gonna do the same down here at the bottom and drip the other way. I didn't add water this time, but I think I'm gonna just see how it goes. I need a little bit more there in that corner. I'm all thumbs this morning. So my husband turned 60, so today is the big party. And so yeah, whole family will be here because we're celebrating his birthday and two of my grandsons and my youngest daughter. So kind of cool. So I'm just gonna continue with this idea, and I'm gonna go up the edges as well. We're gonna do a little bit of texture on the sides of the panel with some crackle paint, and I might put a little bit of crackle paint on this, we'll see. So to get that moving, basically guys, is all we're doing is we're just tipping. So we're tipping this way to let that run. We need a little bit more running, come on. And we're gonna tip the other way, like that. It's hard to see on camera, guys, I know, as far as like my visibility here, especially when I have to hold this at an angle. Goodness, sorry for the loud crash. There we go. And that's all I want. I think that's absolutely beautiful. And so I'm going to go ahead and take a moment and dry this, and then we'll see what's next. I didn't have an entire plan here, so we're just kind of playing together and seeing how it goes. I'll be right back. Okay, friends, this is pretty much dry. Let me show you again a close-up. And so I love the drippy effects. I just love that. I think it makes it look really vintagey and like somebody spilled something, or it's just the time that ages things. So I love it. I'm happy with it. Let me show you what happened with our stenciling. So as I mentioned before, I should have put this on a thicker substrate. And so then because I'm on a paperish substrate instead of chipboard or something, it actually pulled off. So you can see there, I didn't get a complete impression, but you can kind of see the effect. So what I would do if this had worked is I would just do a cut around all of this, and then I would be able to put those leaves wherever I wanted them to be on the piece. I could have them farther apart, I could have them close together, but in this case, because I'm going to be using it just the stencil as it is, it's going to look exactly like this on my surface. But if I'd done it correctly the way that I usually do, it's been a while, right? This would have been raised up because I would have had some thickness underneath my image. So, but again, it's beautiful. It's going to be gorgeous no matter what we do. But what I want to do first here is I'm going to need to create a little bit of texture around these edges. So I'm going to use my Deco Art Crackle Paint, and I am going to do it a little bit. You know what? Actually, I'm not going to use that. Give me just one quick second, guys. Instead of that, I am going to use this Distress Crackle paint. And so this dries completely transparent. So it's really epic. The important part of this is you do need to mix it well and then let it dry on its own. So I will pause, I will move on and do some other things in my day, and I'll come back and we will continue. So I'm just going to mix this up with the bottom of my brush like so. And I'm going to wipe that off because obviously I don't want that wrecking my brush. There we go. The paper towel is about done. Okay, so, and because what I'm going to do with the edges is I'm going to do the crackle, and then I'm going to come in and I'll put some paint to go into those cracks and stuff, similar to wherever I put it on this part of the project. We'll do the same thing. So this is going to be tricky to see. I'm going to speed the video up and let you guys watch, and hopefully it will make sense. Oh goodness. Okay. And I'm going to do just a tiny bit of this crackle medium on the top of the project here. Sorry, that's crooked in view, but I don't want to move it again. So I'm just going to kind of put a little bit here in the corners mostly, because again, I don't want it, this is not the point of the project. Although, as you know, if you've watched me at all, I love the cracks. They tell a story about us, about our world, about our human condition, because we are all cracked, right? We are all cracked, and we are all in need of help and love and healing and all of that. So I'm trying to avoid the center. That's why my hesitation there. And this icicle, I thought this was called icicle paint, but it's not. It's I think that's a different Ranger product that I've used in the past. So we're just going to do that, and then I'm going to go ahead and let this dry a bit and come back to you, and we will go on to the next beautiful step in this process. So I will see you in a few minutes. Your time, it'll be a few minutes. Okay, we are back, and this is nice and dry. This was the Distress Crackle Paint, Clear Rock Candy is what it's called, in case I didn't give that detail. So I'm just going to show, so it's going to be hard to see on camera, but I want you to kind of see those cracks. Can you see the cracks over here? And then my monitor's backwards, so guys, I sometimes point where I'm not intending to point because it's backwards. So hope you guys can see that. So given that you can't really see it very well, I am going to do a raw umber glaze, just because that's going to help all of that. That's going to help some of that brown color go down into those cracks. I can wipe it off of this center section really, really easily. So I'm going to go ahead and do that really quick. So I've got my golden fluid acrylic in raw umber. I'm just going to get it out on my paper here. And then I've got my glazing medium, and this is from Golden. And in case you haven't heard of this before, what this does, it allows you to be able to apply a blanket of color over your project, and then because it's got the glaze in it, it allows you to wipe it back off, take it off of the places that you don't want it. So, sorry, fussing with this lid. With all of my spilling lately, I'm making sure that I'm getting that lid on. So, and I've got a brush. That's not quite a big enough brush. Let me grab one more, guys, just so this goes a little bit faster. It's not also not very soft. I need to get some more brushes. So, again, I'm just going to mix this here on my paper. And then I'm just going to apply it all over the surface. I know it can kind of be scary, as I've mentioned before, because it looks like we're just applying paint, right? Brown paint to boot over the whole beautiful picture here. But wait and watch for the magic. And I know this is old hat for those of you who have been following me and have seen me use this a number of times. I have a hard time doing a mixed media project without doing a glaze. And even in my intro, I said I probably wasn't going to do one. And then I usually do. So I'm going to, we're going to start with that, and then we'll do the edges here in a moment. So now I'm going to get my baby wipes because I want to be able to pull up a lot of this color. So I'm going to focus on the middle here just because that's where I really don't want a lot of it. And then I'm just going to kind of do this. And I'll hold this up so you guys can see a little bit better what's happening here. So as you can see, we really didn't lose the vibrancy of that middle section. I mean, it does dull it a little bit, but see how we can wipe it off with just another bit of a baby wipe. So let me show you what this looks like up close. Hopefully you guys can see the texture a little bit better. So we've got, oh gosh, this thing being backwards is problematic. So see that right there? That is the crackle paint with the brown in it. So we didn't really get anything staying there, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be everywhere. And so we have, gosh, goodness, it's backwards. I have to think opposite. I don't do that very well. So there's more of that. And then there's this little swath here, goodness, right here. And then let me go this way. And I've got an Apple computer, and I have Googled this to Kingdom Come, and I can't figure out what the setting is that would change that. So I apologize. I look like a bumbling fool there. So we're going to do the same. We're going to go around the edges of the sides of the panel here as well. I'm just going to do all the sides at one time, and then we'll go ahead and wipe it off. And I want it definitely on here because we've got some of that is the MDF board is still showing because I didn't get my papers completely covering it, which is okay. Sometimes I do these, I use a wood panel that is, I believe, 2 inches deep, which is really fantastic to do mixed media on. And on that one, it looks really cool. And I will use like stencils and modeling paste on the sides, but this is such a small area. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to go back to the one I started on. Sorry, guys. And I'm just going to use my baby wipe. And you're not going to be able to see what I'm wiping because I can't. I'm holding it with one hand and then trying to balance this on my hand. And it actually is, MDF board is fairly heavy, so it's a little bit uncomfortable. So I apologize for the angle here. But I'll show you here in a second what it looks like. I'm leaving more of the brown because it is the edge. So I'll show you what that looks like. So let's see, which one can we do? Let's show you that one. So this is one edge. So you can see the crackle. And it just gives this really cool, come on, focus. Goodness gracious. You'll be able to see all that in the close-up photos. I take a lot of photos, which is why I like to direct people to my blog because it's easy to see all the photos all in one place. So, and again, I have way too much glaze there, but that's typical. I'm going to go ahead and take a moment to dry this, and I'll be right back. Okay, that should be good. I am going to get something to put over this because it's unsightly and I don't really want to look at it. I put my paintbrush in the water, and I'm just going to put that parchment paper over it. There we go. I also don't want to put my hand in it. So as I mentioned before, I am going to redo the wings. I didn't clean the stencil off, which I should have because I can see we've got modeling paste here. We don't want that. Goodness, I should have taken the time. Again, do as I say, not as I do. You want to clean your stencils. When you do that technique that I was showing you, though, you do risk that stencil getting a little messed up because you do have to leave it on until it's completely set on that paper or whatever the substrate is that you're putting it on for that technique where I would cut around it and have it be more of a three-dimensional thing. So I am debating on whether or not I want to put those wings together because I could always do one and then spread them out a little bit, which I'm inclined to do because I'm not liking them the way they are. I'm just picking this off a little bit more. because where that is stuck on the stencil, it's not going to receive the new medium. So that should be fine because we're not looking for a perfect impression here. So I do think I want to spread them out. So let me find my ruler. Where'd it go? It's under a bunch of junk. So this is 10 inches, so 5 would be the middle. So it's really hard with this ruler. Let me grab my special ruler. I'm so ill-prepared today. That's what happens when I'm trying to plan for something else and I'm trying to squeeze this in. So that's 10 inches. So 5 is going to be the middle. So I would want, so if that's the middle and I'm putting this center section right over that number 5, I'm going to move it over, I'm going to move it over a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to put this wing here. So I'm going to just take that off, move my ruler. And, you know, this is risky because, you know, I might not get it all straight, but that's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get that texture paste out again. And I'm just going to put it on top of this here, just fine. And I'm going to get my palette knife again. I think I'm going to use this one this time. Doesn't really matter what shape, as I mentioned, which you haven't seen the video yet. You just want to have it have a straight edge is I think very useful. So we're going to just go ahead and put this on, and I'm guarding this. In fact, let me get a piece of paper just so that I don't get any texture paste on this other side. It's just going to make it easier on me. So I'm going to go ahead and just apply this, and we're not going to have too much trouble because we don't have we have visual interest in the background, but we don't have a ton of texture in this spot. So that's going to make this go a little bit easier. Oh man, that lifted. Hopefully we'll be okay. So the other thing is if this really went south and it just like you lost control of your stencil, is all you have to do is lift the stencil up, wipe off what you did. You might have some residual color from whatever the paste, especially if you're using a colored paste. If you're using a texture paste, you might have some residual texture left behind, but it's mixed media, so it doesn't really matter, but I'm hoping that this is going to be okay. Hoping. So we're going to have to pause and dry this because I won't be able to set the stencil down and do the other half until this is dried. So I will come back to you in a moment, but let me lift this while the camera is still going. Fingers crossed. I'm just going to move this paper first. Come on, paper. There we go. And let's just pull that off, and I'm going to pull it off slowly. There we go. Oh, beautiful. You guys, I just love mixed media. Oh, it's my heart. Look at that. Look at that. That's amazing. So let me dry this really quick and I'll be right back. Okay, I think that is good enough, dry enough to go over and do the next wing. I am going to take a moment and wash this off though, because I don't want necessarily any extra transfer. So I'm just going to wipe off that side that I just used. Sorry, that's off camera. There we go. And so now we're going to do the other side. Need a little bit more of that paste. It actually took quite a bit. So what we did is we had taken our ruler on that first part, and whoops, wrong ruler. And I'm going to come down here, and so we know that we had we were at the 5 mark, which is where the middle of the stencil was. And so I'm going to use this also as a guide for my bottom to make sure that I'm lined up on the bottom as best I can. Again, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. So again, I'm going to place my, oh goodness, this is going to be tricky. So that's about the middle. It's kind of hard because I'm positioning the ruler in a little bit different way. So that's our 5 mark. So I'm going to move it over a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to try to move it over about there. And again, this is an estimation, you guys. I can actually, whoops, I just moved it. Oh, this is so hard. So this was our 5 mark right there-ish. So I'm going to move it over. About okay, I guess I can look at this edge. Goodness gracious, Cara-Renee. I can be looking over here, 7.5. So I'm going to move it over to 7. There we go. Right there. I'm trying really hard to not press on this stenciling here. So I'm going to put that down there. And we're even on the bottom, so I think we're good. Oh, that's way high. What the heck? That won't work. We're going to have to estimate and move this down. That would have been terrible. Crooked wings. So, goodness, I'm trying to figure out how to do this so that I get it even. I didn't think about this very well. So I'm just slowly moving it down. And I'm trying to, I'm watching this tip here and this tip here. And I'll know I'm at least approximately in the right place. Again, perfection is not at play in the studio, so I am not going to fret if it's not straight. Okay, so there we go. I think that's pretty okay. And we're going to go ahead and give it a try because, like, what do we have to lose? Nothing. Nothing at all. So it's just art, right? It's just play. It's just creativity. It's not a big deal. And, you know, I'm a perfectionist, guys, so that's hard for me to say, and it's hard for me to do. But I've learned that I get much more joy out of my creativity if I just remove that perfection and I remove that expectation that everything is going to be exactly like I want it to be and that it's going to look like the picture in my head and all of that, because, you know, we rob ourselves of the joy of creating because we get stressed, right? Creativity should not involve stress, in my opinion. We are all different though, aren't we? And so if that's hard for you, I would just encourage you to play around with something that feels a little less risky and just play with that idea of just not fretting, just rolling with it, right? So I'm hoping this is straight now that I'm lecturing you about perfection. Pretty darn good. Look at that. Oh my goodness, look at that. It's epic. So now I feel like I need something in the middle. I might put like a heart or something. Probably going to do that off camera because I am running a little bit low on time. But you'll be able to see all of this in the fit photos at the end. So I think I'm going to just go ahead and call this a day. And again, check back and see how I finished it. I'll probably come around this when it's dry with a little bit of charcoal pencil to make it really pop and be more three-dimensional. And I'm going to play around with what I might be able to put there to fill that gap because it does look a little bit strange. I do want to measure really quick just to see how well we did with our distance. So from here to here is 2 inches. And from here to here is 2 inches. That was pretty darn good. So guys, I hope that you'll hop on over to the blog at B.Rebornart.com. The link will be in the video description as well as all the close-up photos and all of that stuff. So I will talk to you later. Thanks. Bye-bye.